We're
We are
live.
here. We're back in 2021.
Yeah, almost
Has
a
the
whole
world gotten
year.
better?
No, it has not gotten better. It has not gotten better, unfortunately. But hello, everybody. Hi again. If you're listening, watching, tuning in, broadcasting, whatever it is, writing letters. I don't know. We have, excuse me, we haven't recorded in a while. Unfortunately, we both have lives and families and kids and dogs, parrots and stuff. So we finally made some time and put our actual responsibilities aside to sit down and chit chat again. So we're excited to be
Here we
back.
are.
Yeah, here we are. Here we are again. So,
Well, Gus, let me ask you, what's the last thing you've seen, movie or show?
right, well, movie definitely was Suicide Squad this past weekend, but it's been
Thoughts?
I liked it. I had a blast. It delivered in violence, and it did something that even outside of superhero films, something that Fast and Furious doesn't do anymore. Definitely the Marvel movies don't do anymore. It it killed people off, and there's actual risk involved in these characters. So that's what makes this enjoyable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I almost saw it as like a hard reboot of the first one, considering I won't say who, but how many of the main players from the previous film bit the dust in this one.
Man, it's been like what 4 years. If you haven't seen the first Suicide Squad at this point,
Oh no, yeah,
spoiler alert.
I don't want to spoil this
This
movie.
one,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Um,
Yeah, I was kind of shocked at how things took a turn.
yeah. There are certain characters I didn't expect to die. It was fun overall. James Gunn has that has it down. Handling big groups of characters and giving them their own unique voice. I do think the first half was funnier than the second half, with kind of jokes flying at you. 1, 2, 3. That whole camp sequence where they sneak in and do their business was like funny and violent, and the outcome of that was pretty hilarious. I do think it slowed down a little bit in the middle, and then it just it was fun, but it became another city getting destroyed movie, and I was
Worth
just
it.
all right. Well,
Worth
it was
it.
like,
Totally worth it. I
still,
laughed. I
yeah,
laughed the whole time. Anytime King Shark was there, I was laughing. I realized I was the only one laughing in the theater. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like I would just bust out laughing out loud anytime he interacted with them.
And how was the theater? Was it packed?
No, no, and sadly, I was reading some articles today because it's Monday, right? And numbers are out. It didn't do very well. I think it was a Hollywood Reporter article compared it to Tomb Raider. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean?
It's so tough, people are staying home. I would think that this one would attract a lot of people to watch it at home on HBO Max. That's where I watched it. So, I think it was a success considering how these cases have risen and it's still made almost 30 million right here in the U.S.
I think so.
I'd say probably it did maybe another 10, on HBO Max. So respectable numbers, I think, considering, even though the first movie made a ton of money, it wasn't really received well critically or even by the fans, to be honest.
And it's
So,
rated R this time.
and it's rated R, so it would have made less either way than the original film. But I think considering all those factors, I think it still did pretty well. I think they'll look at that and they'll probably make another one. I think they'll make another
I
one.
hope so. And there's a lot of other things to consider. Unfortunately, things are tightening back up. You're being required to wear masks again, especially here in my city in Vegas. Now you have to wear masks again indoor, where a lot of cities, I think California still had that rule, but here, we're back to wearing it. So I think that kind of stops people from going out
Yeah,
more.
for sure.
I know Florida, like at least in Orlando area, is a hot zone. So like the theme parks are requiring people to put masks on again. So I think that's going to hold people back from going and doing stuff. And plus, it's the weekend before school starts for many
Yeah.
places, and I'm just like, ugh.
People are getting ready to get back to that life where kids are actually going to be back in school for the most part. Even in California, kids are going back to school. So yeah, it's a whole other thing. I mean, that's like retraining yourself as a parent
Yeah,
to get ready for that following week, and also mentally preparing to breathe a little bit more and focus on work during the day again, and not be a teacher yourself. I
But
don't
what?
envy. Yeah, I don't envy you, dude.
Oh.
Like with the older kid, I got the 2-year-old, so it was a lot easier to go through this now
Mhm.
than when he's older. Like a lot of people I know.
Well, I mean, we got lucky. I mean, he's in daycare preschool, so that never shut down because it wasn't part of the school system. So he
Right.
was still going, but it's like last week. School was closed all last week,
Yeah.
so he was home all week, and I was like, man, if I had to do this for 6, 7, 10 months, there'd be a
It's a
kid
lot.
up for sale. I love him, but
Oh
you
yeah.
got to
Oh
go. You gotta go somewhere. We gotta put you in something. Uh, well, what about you? Have you seen anything lately? I mean, shows or anything? You're always up to
yeah.
date.
Yeah, I think we're pretty on the same page as far as movies go. We see things around the same time. So I'll talk about TV a little bit, and probably the two shows that stuck out recently for me were Mayor of Easttown on HBO
Okay.
with Kate Winslet. Thought it was a really great detective thriller. She's fantastic in it. Um, really stuck the landing too, because you always worry with those whodunits. Like you get through like the fifth or sixth episode, and it's following a little bit of a pattern where you think it's just one person one episode and another person the next episode. That gets a little old. That was a big problem with the killing that happened a few years ago. Like, all right, maybe
Yeah.
it's this. Maybe it's this person. Let's let everybody know that it might be this person. Ruin their lives for one episode, and then we'll do it to somebody else the next episode. But they got away from that pretty quickly, and the ending was very satisfying. I think Kate Winslet did a really good job with that. I hope they keep it as a oneer, as it was originally intended, because now they're talking, oh, it's such a good success. Let's do
Oh
another,
no.
another season. But I'm like, all right, well, what's going to be bigger than this case for Kate Winslet? It's such a small town where her
Hmm.
character lives. That's not the town that has big cases happening every year. So unless she's pulled to another city for her expertise or something like that, I don't know what they're going to do that's going to be bigger than this case. And then I saw Hacks, which is also is an HBO Max exclusive show, which is set in your hometown, Vegas.
I don't know
With
it.
yeah, with Jean Smart. It's like she's a comedian. It's had this tour, like 2,500 shows, in Vegas. I forget what hotel they had her up at, and then they pair her up with a comedy writer in L.A. who's got some controversy on her right now. So they're like, all right, well, her tour is ending, and this writer, we need to get her out of LA without losing her as a client. Let's just pair them up together. Maybe they could develop some new material together. And it's like the old style of comedy meeting the new style of comedy, where everybody's offended by everything, and the new comedian is just like just annoyed by it all. But there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's really great writing, good dramatic acting as well. I'd say those two are probably in the top three so far of shows overall this year. So I highly recommend those two. But yeah, man. So you went to the theater to see
Hmm.
Suicide Squad. How many times have you been to the theater since things kind of reopened?
I any chance I can.
Yeah.
I go. I mean, I haven't been there. I saw Fast 9. Trying. I might go tonight and watch The Green Knight. But I
That
have to
looks
go to a
great.
different theater for that. You went to the theater and saw it?
No, it looks
Oh,
great.
oh! I thought you said.
I want to see it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you
But
said it was great. I was like, oh man.
no, it looks
Um,
fantastic. That movie.
I didn't see Ghost Story, so I'm excited to kind of see what this is. It's David Lowery.
David Lowery, yeah. Ghost Story was very unique. Aside from this one like static shot of Rooney Mara like grief eating a pie
Mm-hmm.
for like 10 minutes straight. Like I get what he's going for. Like in that moment, that's what we do sometimes when we're
Yeah.
grieving. Like if something's in front of us, I just need to inhale this and not think about my sadness. But there's a lot of like really just you'll think about a lot about life and time you have and what you do with it in that movie. It's a very unique film. I like it a lot. He also did Pete's Dragon,
Yep.
the live action, which I thought was really cool. It was a good one.
I remember it coming out. I was at the theater at the time when that came out, but I didn't see it either. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. I might go watch that tonight. I mean, anything I could always watch. I've been going to the theaters to watch.
Did you see Black Widow on the big screen?
I did not. No,
Oh.
did I? No, I did. I did watch that on the big screen. I'm trying to remember. So there's some movies that I go either by myself or I go with the wife.
Right.
That one we went with the wife because she really wanted to watch it, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed Black Widow a lot. Everything's like a blur because
Do you think that because we're talking about Suicide Squad, now Black Widow, and HBO and Disney have been doing the hybrid release thing. Do you think that, we know why Suicide Squad had less numbers because of Delta variant and people staying home. Black Widow came out when things were kind of popping again. I think it came out like a week or so after F9, right?
Yeah, and the anticipation, right? The first Marvel movie in theaters since Far From Home. Far From Home, I think it was.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So almost 2 years. So I think that was like the ante up. And I think that's what James Bond has going for it. It's that it's been so long, but I think that's it's hoping that the desire to want to watch that film. I don't think it's people going back to theaters, it's people wanting to watch that film.
So, asking you this, I think Fast and Furious opened up with like 70 million opening weekend domestic, and then Black Widow opened up I think with around 80. But Fast and Furious didn't do the hybrid release.
No.
Black Widow did, and then Disney released their numbers of I think they made 30 million that weekend or something.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, it's different when you have the option to rent something at home, then maybe you think about it. But if they took that away, do you think it would have really made much of a difference on its theatrical opening? It's one thing to say oh, well, they lost money because they did it on Disney Plus. But if they didn't have that option, then maybe people that rented at home just wouldn't have gone to the theater still.
So short, yes or no to answer your question. No, I don't think it would have made a difference. I think the streaming, all it did was make it more accessible, but people these days are a lot more tech savvy, and I think people would have found a way to watch it online either way. I think I strongly believe that majority of the people that watch it online that are willing to pay for it at home are paying just more for the quality, but I would bet anything that most people don't care about quality, and they would have found a way to watch it bootleg.
Right.
I think if anything, streaming it online helped it, but I strongly believe from my friends that work in the theater business and from what I'm seeing when I go to the theater, and even Alamo's dropping off, in my opinion, is they're so focused on keeping the doors open that they're missing, no pun intended, they're missing the big picture, which is the movie theater going experience. And, when I heard Tarantino's interview, I think it was on Joe Rogan, and he talked about streaming, and then some other directors and stuff talk about streaming, they're all about preserving this movie going experience, and Nolan did with Tenet, which we talked about last year.
Right.
But you can't, as a filmmaker, hope that people are going for the film going experience when the theater's not providing it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where they're missing it. They're so worried about selling the popcorn, selling the ticket, getting people to come in that the movie, there's a movie coming out with Donnie Yen called Raging Fire, and I'm gonna have to go to AMC to watch it here locally, and I'm just dreading it. You know what I mean? I want to go because one, it looks awesome. It's Donnie Yen. I want to support it, but it's I gotta go to AMC.
Right.
And I know me as a consumer, the clientele. Actually, you know what? This kind of movie, because it's gonna be dubbed, or no, it's gonna have subtitles. Excuse me. I might get away from that kind of clientele. It might not even be a full theater, but just the thought of having to go into an AMC and experience the film is dreading to me. It's exhausting. Right. So I think streaming it online helps the film. Universal, another thing to note here is Universal's contract is a little different. Where Universal is now releasing it on home video within 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks.
I think it's gonna be because I think
it's Paramount, up right now on Prime.
I think Paramount with Quiet Place, they did a 45-day theatrical window, and then it's on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it works.
Yeah, but that's a big
deal. Which you predicted at the beginning of this whole thing. I think our first episode, you predicted the shorter theatrical window, and here we are.
Yeah, I still think it's a pissing contest between studios, which I don't know why. I don't know why. Ultimately, Disney's going to own everything in 15 years, but I don't know why it's a pissing contest. I think they really should move towards they like to keep things staggered out 2 weeks. So cool. Like, you know what? I'm going to own these 2 weeks and you own these 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we rotate it between the 4 or 5 studios because it's going to all turn into one studio at one point.
Right.
And it's getting I can't go out and support every movie all the time.
Right.
And now I have the option to watch it at home. Well, if I'm paying for HBO Max, like I watched In the Heights at home. I didn't care about watching that in the theater. That was like, I have it for free at home. Well, I pay for HBO Max, but I have it for free at home. But I'm not going to pay $30 like Jungle Cruise. I'm not paying $30 to watch Jungle Cruise.
I'll wait the 2 to 3 months and it'll be available on Disney Plus for everybody.
Yeah, Luca came straight out.
Yeah,
on Disney Plus, which I thought was okay.
It was okay.
Right.
It was a good looking Pixar movie as usual. I think like it wasn't as good as Raya and the Last Dragon. I thought that was.
I didn't watch that
movie.
yet.
Yeah, I think you'd like that. That was a good one.
Or Soul.
Soul was great.
Soul was great. Soul was great. But I don't think I think people want to, especially movie theaters, and them jumping on this whole, not to sidetrack too much, but for NATO, the theater owners and the president of NATO to come out and jump on this whole bandwagon and choose sides of Scarlett Johansson, lawsuit.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh Lord, man. I was like, stop. Stop choosing sides.
Yeah.
Stop. I was like,
where do you land on the whole Scarlett Johansson suing Disney thing?
I look at it through. I look at it two ways. First off, get your money, right? If it's in contract and you're supposed to get some money, get your money. Like get paid, because if you're not getting paid, someone else is getting paid.
Yeah.
So it's like sports players, right? Like their contract. The team owner, they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Or the stock people, they're getting paid, but the player who's actually out there doing the physical aspect of it is broke and injured. So my opinion is go get your money. On the other hand, I don't like how they're twisting the story.
Yeah.
And they're using the story to tell a different story. I read a lot of articles and I posted that on my Facebook page, which is, let me make this clear. She's not suing them for the movie-going experience. She's suing them to get paid because she was supposed to make a percentage deal off the back end of sales and toys or whatever the case is. So that's how I get infuriated.
Percentage
with this.
deal of the theatrical run, which they cut short by doing the hybrid release. So if they went with what you were saying, like an exclusive theatrical run, 30 to 40 days or whatever, and then do the hybrid thing, or just go straight to Disney Plus, I think actors would be fine with that. But I think what it's going to end up in is, like, if they do these hybrid things, continuing to do that, then actors are going to want a cut of the streaming service, and they'll probably get it.
They should give her a cut of the streaming service. I don't see why not. I mean, just pay the lady.
Right.
Just pay the lady, because now what you did is you opened the door for now the other lawsuits, and then what happened?
Right.
The NATO president jumped on it. These people are jumping on it. Like, look at us. We need to preserve the movie-going experience because you see what they're doing to actors. I'm like, yo, these actors are trying to get paid.
Right.
They can care less if it goes. That's why you got actors doing Netflix. I think it was me and you that read that article where Netflix is going to do everything in their power to try to buy the next Nolan film.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, money talks.
Right.
I don't care what you say about Nolan. At the end of the day, if Netflix is there, like, well, you do whatever you want. Here's some money.
Spielberg too. Isn't Spielberg doing something? Amblin and Netflix together now?
Amblin, Netflix. I don't know if he ended up doing anything with Apple TV, but I know Amblin, Netflix. Yeah, I mean, it's about money.
Yeah.
And the same thing
money
with the theater.
Money and creative freedom. Like Netflix with Scorsese and Irishman, they did like I think it was like a 2 or 3 week exclusive theatrical run. Mm-hmm. If Nolan can get his 30 days or 40 days, I guarantee he would do something with Netflix.
Well, that was
he's
mostly
got
for
full
awards.
autonomy on his productions anyway.
But that was for the awards. They just wanted to try to get it for Oscar contenders. So I think the rule was like you had to show it in New York and LA for like 2-3 weeks or some shit. And
something like that, yeah.
Something ridiculous.
But I'm sure if Netflix wants to land somebody like Nolan, they'll do some kind of theatrical run, just to appease and have that name now attached to them, because now they got all this competition with HBO Max and Disney and all that. You see Gerard Butler suing as well for the first Fallen movie. Olympus Has Fallen.
Was it Olympus? Olympus Has
Yeah.
Fallen, right?
He said he's owed like $10 million. I'm like, wait, you didn't sort this out before you did part 2 and 3?
You know
what's
what?
going on there?
My buddy said it the best. He's like, well, I guess we're not getting a fourth.
Right.
And so it's like the same thing with Black Widow. I was like, well, I guess she's not coming back. And she's suing Disney. They're not going to hire her again. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer after, when did she jump on with this series? Like over 10 years ago with Iron Man 2? So it's like,
so.
To kind of like end this 10-year relationship on a sour note like that's a bummer.
But at the same time, get your money. Maybe she knows something we don't know. Maybe they were like, oh, she is a woman in Hollywood. She is hitting 40, like your market value is going to drop. I think it was it Courtney Cox that said in an interview recently after the Friends thing debuted, which was it Courtney Cox or was it somebody else? I could be getting the story wrong. Where they were like, oh, the day they turned 40. No, it was what's her name from the Matrix movies?
Carrie Moss.
Yes, as soon as she turned 40, they wanted her to play a grandma.
Yeah, that's what happened with Cameron. That's why Cameron Diaz kind of quietly retired because all she was getting offered was like mom roles and stuff like that. And she's
so
like,
get your money.
This is the
Get your money. You know what Netflix should do though? In all honesty, Netflix should pull an Amazon and just just get a theater. They should have bought the ArcLight because they went out of business and they closed their doors. They should have just bought the Dome and run it like a traditional movie house.
Yeah,
like, you know what?
Your Netflix subscription, you show up to like run your, to watch your movie with your Netflix subscription.
Sure.
You watch a movie on the big screen, and then you pay for concessions, and then that all comes to.
But give them the movie-going experience, like completely. Like, I'm gonna kick you out if you're on your phone. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Really bring the movie-going experience back. And I think that would have been like a big smack in a lot of people's faces. I would have been all for it.
True. So what do you think? I mean, you're talking about taking over the Dome. Like, what do you think about Regal and how they're going to take over these ArcLight theaters? Are they going to like change it to some kind of Regal format? Like, is the Dome going to be respected as an actual?
Did they get the Dome? I know they got the one I used to work at, which was in
Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks. But did they get the Dome?
I think they got all ArcLight in general. I thought they did, but maybe I'm mistaken.
In my honest opinion, I don't know why Disney didn't buy the Dome. So the Dome, from when I used to work there, from what I was told, and I think I've mentioned this in the podcast before, because the El Capitan is on Hollywood Boulevard. So anytime there was a big Disney movie like Jungle Cruise, if Jungle Cruise is opening up at the El Capitan, the Dome, the ArcLight Hollywood didn't get any Disney film. Right? So I was like, why doesn't Disney just buy the Dome? I don't think they did. Now Regal, from what I've been told and people who've been taking pictures there, they're gonna change everything. I think the departure board, the original departure board that has the showtimes and the names, is probably gonna stay because it works. But from what I read, is they're getting rid of all the film projectors. They're putting in digital projectors. So, it's a Regal, man. I don't know. It's dreading. It's dreading to go there. I have a couple of friends that have been going to Alamo, and they're like, "Oh, it's great to go back to the theater," but and at some point, you don't want to be just distracted with like sitting in this chair and having a bucket of nachos and a cheeseburger and a beer. Like, I could just do this shit at home.
Right.
Like, I kind of want to be elbow to elbow with somebody and enjoying it and be in this atmosphere and cheering and laughing and kind of. That's the experience. So, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with the Dome.
Probably be your RPX theater. They'll convert it into that or whatever like that, or some 4DX situation. But, with your Netflix idea, one thing they should reconsider is terminating their deal with Zack Snyder before they get too far in with him.
Oh, man. Oh, man. You know how I feel about that. You know what? I will give you this. Was it Army of the Dead? Army of the Dead, right?
Army of the Dead, yeah.
It was okay. It was okay. He was having fun, and it looked okay. I was mad about one thing, and this is not really a spoiler, but they never used the saw.
They never used the saw. You're right.
They never used the saw. And if you haven't seen Army of the Dead...
Even in that money shot that they used in the trailer where it's going around everybody in the guy's head, everybody's shooting. Like, he's even shooting in that. He's not using the saw or anything.
And that's what sucks. They never used the saw. But other than that, like the movie was okay. It was fun. It had the gore.
I think it has such a great concept, and I think he did a major disservice to himself by shooting it himself. I think if he would have had a DP, the movie would have looked a lot better. I think it would have flowed better. Because as much as I don't care for his movies with the Justice League or whatever like that, they look good. They were good looking movies. Because he had a DP. he hadn't shot anything himself in like years. And like I get he wants to just be in it with his actors, sure, whatever. But I think a lot of it looked cheap. A lot of like digital gunfire looked cheap in the movie. They didn't even like try to make it look like they were really firing weapons at times.
I could agree with that. I could agree with that. But is that him or is that Netflix?
I think it's him because I've seen some movies on Netflix that look good and the action's good, like Triple Frontier with Ben Affleck. The action was really good in that movie.
But that movie also didn't require that much CGI.
No, but it was
like Six Underground. There was some iffy moments in Six Underground. When I was like,
Michael Bay and Zack Snyder are almost interchangeable at this point.
Damn it! I brought up the wrong example.
Yeah. It's just all polished and but I feel like even Michael Bay with that movie, it felt like he forgot how to direct an action sequence. Like his movies have always been like rapid edits. We've known that from the beginning. But The Rock looked great, and all these movies, they still looked good. And for some reason, Six Underground, like when you take the training, or the restraints off of these guys, the studio restraints, I think sometimes it's not good for directors like Zack Snyder or Michael Bay where they're just left to their own devices. Like I think they do need some restraint.
They need logical restraint. They need logical restraint. Did you read that? Not to branch off too much, but did you read the David Goyer, what was his name? David S. Goyer article?
I have it on my phone. That article pulled up. I want to read that.
Well, he mentions that the problem with the studio is with studio input. I had just read this recently, which was, like when they did Man of Steel, and he helped write that. Zack Snyder. I guess I'm not branching off too much. He talked about the studio sent him a note and said, well, if you destroy Superman's ship, how is he going to get back to Krypton? And it's like, he says in the article, is like, you just watched 30 minutes of the beginning of Krypton getting destroyed. And so that's where it becomes a shaky ground of like the studios, don't always know what's best.
Right. No, I get that. But I think with somebody like Snyder, I think you definitely need some kind of restraint at some point, because or some kind of foundation. Like I didn't read the Watchmen comic book. I hear it's very faithful to the comic. I thought the movie itself was gorgeous, but kind of a bore. But it felt like a restrained Zack Snyder. Like it felt like a focused Snyder, which Army of the Dead did not feel focused at all.
No, it didn't. But there is a Zack Snyder Watchmen. Go ahead. Hold on.
Oh, there's a Watchmen. Was it like 5 hours long?
I actually have it in front of me. It's right here.
How long is it? How long is this?
You know what?
Cut?
That's Man, you're gonna make me open this up. That's a good question. And it comes with
4 hours long.
Oh my lord! You're really gonna make me open this up. Lord. my friend would know this off the top of his head. Where's Adam when you need him? I'm too lazy to look this up, but I would have to look it up.
I'll Google it later. But yeah, like the Justice League cut. All right, not terrible, not boring. It still took me a few nights to finish it.
Really?
Because I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna pause this here. Like it was unnecessary. It did not need to be 4 hours long.
You know what though? I mean, to get his version out, it did, but it is a different film than what we got.
It's different with more stuff, but honestly, like as bad as the Whedon version was, most of the footage from the Whedon version was from Snyder. Aside from Mustache Gate and the bad color job that they did on it, the cheesy color job, like all those scenes were in the Snyder cut.
But it changes the tone.
A little bit.
It changes the tone.
But not much.
Nah, I don't know, man. I felt like it changed the tone, and her it being a little bit more Wonder Woman discovering Apocalypse, getting a little bit more to the lore of Apocalypse. you know, I enjoyed it because I enjoy the comics and I enjoy the evil bad guy aspect of it.
Yeah, I kind of felt like Steppenwolf was like a poor man's. Well, no, what's his face? Darkseid was a poor man's Thanos. Like, not only did they have a flashback sequence where he was defeated, so like, all right, this guy, like, I'm gonna retreat. I'm gonna come back when I need to come back. And they got Steppenwolf getting all these mother boxes, aka Infinity Stones, all together at the end of the movie.
There's a lot of comparison there because we saw Infinity War first, kind of. If this had come out before, this probably would have came out before Infinity War. But I mean, in technicality, Thanos snaps, but he almost gets killed in the process. You know,
Yeah,
and
it
takes an army to defeat him in Endgame.
Right.
Like it takes, you know, then the whole.
I mean, Endgame's a superior movie. I mean, I'm not gonna like Justice League doesn't even come close. But like I was laughing at Justice League though. Like, you know, they had the big battle at the end and the portals open, and like, you know, all the advertisements for this new Snyder cut was like new villain, new movie, all this stuff. So Darkseid's a new villain. They've been promoting all to hell, and then at the end you got this portal open. Darkseid's looking through it. And he's like, nah, I'm good. Like, just
well,
like, all this.
It was more of a. Well, because you get the nightmare sequence afterwards, and you get like, okay, what happened? You know, when you see all of them in the nightmare sequence.
Who cares?
I mean, I'm still a big Batman fan, a Batflick fan. You know, I think he was a good Batman.
He was good as that.
He's a good Bruce Wayne. He's a good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Anybody can be Batman.
I'm pumped for the Matt Reeves Batman. I think aesthetically it looks cool, and it's like a, you know, almost more of a detective thriller than, you know, with the previous Batman movies. So we'll see how that goes.
But they're kind of going that route, like on the violent side of what they did in Batman v Superman, where like Batflick beats the crap out of the guys.
Yeah.
Where you hear the actual punching and the thunts and kind of like the video game
bone snapping,
the bone snapping and the dum dum dum. You know, you hear that in the trailer. They actually played that Batman trailer before the Suicide Squad, right. And I'm like, yeah, people are really excited, but I was like, but somebody already did this,
right?
You know, you don't really get it in the Dark Knight. In the Dark Knight, you get more of the whoosh whoosh whoosh, you know, but right. You don't get like the actual like crack. Like he ain't dead, but he ain't getting up.
No, he ain't getting back up.
No, he ain't getting it up.
Well,
at all.
You know, I mean, like HBO Max, they staked a lot on Snyder Cut, you know, to try to bring in more viewers and all that stuff. I don't know if it's done anything really to push the Snyderverse back into our lives, but I think HBO Max as a whole, even with the hybrid release and all that kind of stuff, I think they got a lot of good attention, I think, during COVID. And I'd say because, you know, Netflix is dropping a new movie every Friday, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty much. But, like, is it anything that anybody's really talking about? Not really.
No.
You know?
And HBO Max does, you know, to touch back on the first question you asked me at the beginning, which was, have I seen anything lately? A lot of the films that I have seen has been on HBO Max, excuse me, which is, I got to see The Maltese Falcon for the first time. I got to see Rear Window, you know, for the first time.
Yeah, their Turner Classic Music movies.
It's fantastic.
Is great.
It's fantastic. You know.
But even on the new movie front, you know, like going with the whole Warner Brothers slate at home, like Godzilla versus, like I watched all the Warner Brothers movies on HBO Max. I haven't seen any of them in the theater. But like, as much as I shit on like Godzilla versus Kong because it's the same stuff, it's monsters destroying cities. It's still a huge movie.
Be a child, man.
It's still a huge movie that I have access to on opening night at home. Like, and that's something that Netflix doesn't have. Yeah. You know, like they might spend $200 million on a movie, but it doesn't have the, you know, built-in credibility of like a Godzilla character or a Kong character. And like, I got to watch that at home. I got to watch Taylor Sheridan's new film with Angelina Jolie, you know, at home. This is a big movie that would have probably made maybe 10, 15 million, you know, on a normal year on an opening weekend. I get to see it at home on Friday night. And it's a quality movie for the most part. I mean, it has its issues.
That was the forest fire one, right?
Yeah,
She's getting chased by somebody.
Chased, yeah. Fires happening at the same time. There's some good action in it. There's some silliness as well. But you got Oscar qualifying quality movies like Judas and the Black Messiah. I got to watch that at home on Friday night.
That was great.
And we're not the only ones. Like with those movies premiering on Friday night, like I feel like if I post something on Facebook, like I watched that Angelina Jolie movie and I commented on it, and we got a lot of comments on it because a lot of people are like, all right, HBO is a credible network, streaming service, whatever. Warner Brothers as well. People trust those products. You don't see as much of people like seeing a new Netflix movie on Friday and then posting about it on Facebook and getting a lot of responses. You just don't get it like
it's too much content
with HBO
at some point.
It's it's all diluted on Netflix. Whereas as much as these movies may not have hit in regards to being like great movies overall, there's still Warner Brothers and HBO movies, and like people trust that and people will watch that. So I think HBO Max won, if there's any kind of streaming war, I think it won during COVID in regards to quality content premiering on a Friday night or whatever,
And they're bringing some of those Cinemax shows over. I finally got to catch up on Warrior, on HBO Max. That's been great.
Yeah, I was wondering why they were slow on that, because where else are you going to get them?
Yeah. Yeah, and I caught up on DC Titans on there, and then they got Doom Patrol coming. The new season just started. It's going to start.
I think it just started. I just started the first season a couple months ago of Gomorrah on HBO Max. I don't think it's an HBO show, but it's on HBO Max.
Okay.
It's an Italian mafia present day show. And it takes place in Naples, Italy. It's hardcore, violent. Obviously you got to watch it with subtitles. They dub it, but it sounds
better
cheesy
with
dub.
subtitles.
Yeah, better with subtitles, and it's easy to follow without missing the action. It's not like a ton of dialogue when something important's happening, but really hardcore mafia show. I'm digging it. So I got to get back into that. But I watched the first season of that. It was really good. And I think HBO had some really great content this past year. Disney too. With the Marvel shows, it was a good time for them to build that Marvel TV network situation while everybody's at home. They got kind of lucky, I think.
It was a lot of hype. It was a lot of hype, but as soon as the show ended, it was like after a week, nobody was talking about it.
Right. And I do think their first show was the best, which was WandaVision.
WandaVision?
That was their best show, yeah.
I think it was, because I think it was the longest one, right? Because Falcon and Winter Soldier was 6-7 episodes, and then Loki was only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So
I think it was longer mostly because at least with the first 4 or 5 episodes, it was like a specific decade type of show, and they were only half an hour long.
Yeah.
But I think if they had and that's only really for it to work. But the later episodes were longer. They were 45 minutes to an hour versus half hour when they started. But I thought that show was solid. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier and the Loki show would have worked better as Disney Plus original movies. I don't know if there was enough there to do 6 episodes worth of television, especially with Falcon versus Winter Soldier. I think that was
stretched.
There were times where they were just really stretching things out,
Yeah.
especially when he went back to Louisiana or wherever and he's working on Dad's boat. I was like, man,
trying to go to get a mortgage.
Yeah, we're spending way too much time rebuilding this boat right now.
Yeah.
We need to get out of this. This is boring.
I mean, I get it. It's building
Yeah.
character development. It's him finding his place and him getting back in, him understanding what the Captain America role is. And then I get that he goes and meets the other soldier who did age.
I think we could have got that
right?
in a 2.5 hour movie, 2.5 hour movie, I think we could have covered all that.
Sergio Leone could have done it in 5 hours. And
Yeah.
that is one thing I did watch. I did watch during this thing is I finally got to get a hold of that stupid, ridiculous 4 or 5 hour cut of Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's a completely different film. It is a completely different film. And then the next thing I'm trying to get a hold of, it's out on Blu-ray. I'm just being cheap to buy it. Is the new? It came out in December in theaters for a very limited run. Is the new version of Godfather 3? And I forgot what they're calling it. It's Godfather.
Oh yeah, that
something.
Coda.
Yeah.
The death of Michael Corleone.
Something like that.
It was playing on Showtime actually.
Oh really?
Not too long ago. That version.
Oh wow.
So I watched a little bit, but I do want to watch it from the beginning again. The ending was always it was. I mean, Sofia Coppola is a terrible actress, but great director. I think we've talked about that before. But yeah, the ending of that movie, there's certain edits, like it feels kind of weird. Like, do you remember it pretty well on the steps? You know, the whole scene on the steps at the
I
end?
haven't seen the third in years. In years.
Yeah, so like, you know, like she gets shot, and then,
Mhm.
you know, Al Pacino has his like silent scream with the music. It's beautiful. But like there's like certain shots like of Andy Garcia, like, and he's like in one spot and he's in another spot, like it's really like all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's one part too where he just kind of like looks down and like his whole like groin area is like wet. I can't tell if it's blood like or whatever, but it was always curious because like he didn't touch any of like the dead bodies or anything like that. Where does this blood come from on his junk? It's so weird.
I'm interested to see it. I think it's a little bit longer. It's not much longer. Yeah. It's not like an hour longer. I think it's
right. Yeah,
it's just
a
recut.
few little additions.
Yeah, and some additions and recut. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm excited to watch it. But you're watching new stuff. I'm over here watching old stuff. So
this is so much stuff. I mean, like I respect the old stuff. You know, I watched The Thing again recently.
I saw that in theaters.
That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's such a great movie.
I think it was March, February. They were doing classic cinema, and I went and watched it. Something like that.
That holds up very well. I just took a drive with the family the other day. We went through Hollywood, and I didn't even know this theater really existed. But it's like the Legion Theater, Legion Theater on Highland Avenue.
Sounds familiar.
Just past Camrose, and they're playing Black Rain in 35 millimeter.
Ooh, I just saw that for the first time during this. It's an entirety.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's that, and there's a couple other. There's like 2 or 3 other films that I had read in an article, like the best movies to talk about the Yakuza,
right.
And hashtag Yakuza, please don't kill me. And they were talking about Black Rain is a great film. For the Yakuza.
Super underrated movie, man.
Yeah.
And like the villain was great. I don't think I ever really saw him in anything after that, unless he just stayed making movies in Japan. But you know, that's a movie that wouldn't get made today. You know, like we got this.
Really, you think so?
This abusive cop, you know, that abuses his power, however he needs to get the job done. Like nobody's gonna support that now, and it's a sad thing because it's just a fucking movie.
You thought he was an abusive cop? I mean, I've seen
well,
worse.
you know, like
he's
you
not
know, like,
bad lieutenant.
He's not bad lieutenant. But like, let's say like when they go raid the guy's place, right, all the guys, and like they got the guys lined up, and the guy, I think he throws money or something at Michael Douglas's face.
Oh yeah.
Things down, just headbutts the guy. Or like elbows the guy on the plane, like this rogue kind of cop, you know, by any means necessary. Like nobody's, like no studio's going to sign off on a cop that does things his own way just to get the job done anymore, unless it's a period piece, you know, like and you know showing like what cops used to do to get the job done. But it used to be where like the people that are complaining about it would enjoy a movie like that, you know, and nobody could find it in there just to turn shit off. And just watch the movie, enjoy it. It's crazy, man. But I did rewatch. I showed my mom a couple weeks ago. She was here visiting. Hell or High Water. With Chris Pine. And that movie's so good, man.
Ben Foster, right?
Yeah, and he was so great in that. And he's like, he was somebody I was iffy on for a while because he was so over the top with a lot of his performances. But he was very subdued in that movie. I think he was perfect. I think that's Taylor Sheridan's best script, better than the first Sicario.
Really? You think it's better than the first Sicario? Well,
I think it's the best cops and robbers movie since Heat. You know, and like, and it's perfect throughout, man. Like, you got great dialogue.
It is. The
dialogue with him and Jeff Bridges at the end, like it feels like a Western. You know, like the tough guy talk. They're saying what they want to say without actually.
I'll be seeing you around.
Exactly. Yeah. He's like, I live in town. Maybe you come by. I can give you some peace. And Jeff Bridges is like, maybe I can give it to you. Yeah. Like it's so good. Like I was like, it feels like almost like a relic, that movie, and it's only a few years old, but it's so good, man. Like I really enjoyed rewatching it. But yeah, Black Rain, man. I don't think it would get made today. Like it's tough. It's tough to think about a lot of the movies, like Lethal Weapon, you know, Riggs, those first early couple of movies. Like he had a lot of like, you know, homophobic dialogue, you know, stuff like that. A lot of that would be taken out.
I just saw The Departed again, and this time I actually sat through the whole thing because the first time I saw it, I saw it in pieces. So I was like, oh, okay, let me catch up on it. So the other day I watched it in its entirety, and Yeah, I don't know if that movie could be made today. Talking about homophobic slurs, where
Yeah.
Matt Damon's character is like, "Oh, look at that! Ah, fuck it. Look at that!" He's like saying it, and it's just, and you're just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I took me out of the film because I was like, oh man, if anybody gets a hold of this,
Yeah.
this is bad. This is real bad.
Well, even the movie I did years ago, Sex.com, like one of the actors that plays a bully in the movie uses that, he says the F word, and
The F
a
word.
lot of,
We're calling it the F word.
yeah, the F word.
We can't.
Of the women,
I know we can't say the N word, but now we've hit that we can't say the
It's the
F
F word.
word.
But there was a couple of women on set. They were like, "Oh, I hate that word." And every time like we watched a cut of it, they'd be like, "Oh, I hate that word." And I'm like, "Yeah, I hate it too, but it also serves this
purpose.
character. This character is a total asshole. Like we want to hate this guy as much as possible." And he says it, and like you get that reaction, and then when he gets his ass kicked, you're like, "Yes," like. So I think certain dialogue still should play to serve like the character. Maybe not serve. It probably doesn't serve Riggs now. To you say that especially when they're talking about.
I don't remember him saying that word though.
He says it when the house blows up. Dixie's house blows up, and like Murtaugh's trying to put out the fire on his back. And he's like hugging him, and like Mogan's like, "What are you?" And then they're talking about like lesbian. Yeah, they're talking about like lesbians later. Like, oh, like these two had a relationship, or whatever. Like, and Mel Gibson's like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's disgusting, but yeah, I get it. Like, so all that stuff would be cut now. And anything like that gone, unless it's a period piece. Unless it's a movie about cops in the '80s or '90s, you're probably not going to see that anymore in cop movies, stuff like that. And maybe it's for the better. But I also don't think movies from the past should be like dragged through the mud because that was the time, and people said things maybe a little too freely back then, but that was the time, and like like that Eddie Murphy's Raw, all the jokes in that, like he'd be dragged through the mud right now. But he's not that guy today. Like he's not
that guy, and to a certain extent, right? One is you remove the person from the art, and two, you got to understand how the dialogue is being used, especially comedy, especially stand-up comedy, like Eddie Murphy Raw or Delirious or Andrew Dice fucking Clay. You get that shit. The Dice Man out there. If
even as recently as Eastbound and Down, which just ended a few years ago, like I rewatched an episode of that and I was like, oh my god! And this episode, episode is racist as hell.
But people let shit slide. People let shit slide because if you watch either Family Guy or Rick and Morty, because it's a cartoon,
right,
they get away with it, which I'm okay with, or even South Park I'm okay with, but at the same time is you gotta separate entertainment, and if you're taking this too literal, you
also have to set up the joke so everybody's ready for it, and I think once they're ready for it, because Michael Che was on Howard Stern and he brought up a great point. I don't know if you watched SNL recently. But,
I try not to.
At the end of each season, Michael Che and Colin Jost, they do a bit on Weekend Update where they read jokes that were written for the other person. Yep. So Colin Jost is always reading some racist ass joke that Michael was reading for Michael Che, but like Michael Che says, because we set that up for the audience, now they're ready for this offensive joke, and now they feel that it's okay that they can laugh at it. So you got to set people up like they're children for the joke now, and I think that's why a lot of comedians aren't really doing the comedy. Like Danny McBride's full on doing horror now. He's doing the Exorcist reboot with David Gordon Green after they did Halloween together. I just don't see them doing comedy for a while. I mean, The Righteous Gemstones on HBO was really funny and weird, but at the same time, there wasn't anything half as offensive as the stuff you saw in Eastbound and Down a few years ago. And obviously, it's a lot easier to get away with making fun of these evangelical, crazy people that are making millions off of people and are basically crooks. People are on board with that, but making fun of anything else, it's you gotta be easy.
I think people in general, and I work in a semi-corporate world. I still work with the public, but I'm in a role that involves me working with corporate. And I love making people uncomfortable with jokes or comedy or just making people laugh, just with daily humor. not crude, not offensive, but just making people laugh, especially if I'm poking fun at myself. And I've noticed that if people laugh, everybody laughs. But if somebody kind of like, you have to set it up. You have to explain why you're making that joke. And like, do you get it? Like, do you understand what I said?
Funny.
Then it's not funny. And it's like, you chose to be offended. You chose to be offended when I talked about myself. Like I pulled an Eminem. I talked about how heavy I was or how fat I was or, and then you're like, no, you're not that fat. Why would you say something so angry like that? Like, nah, man, I'm not putting myself down. I was just making a joke. Like, shit, calm down.
We're just looking to be offended by everything, and like one of the latest controversies of the last couple of months was the whole In the Heights casting. They're saying there was too many light-skinned Latinos in Washington Heights. And,
I texted you that.
And like honestly, looking at the movie at first, I was like, okay, look, this is a $50 million Warner Brothers movie that's starring all Latin cast, except
there was one black guy.
One black guy, but still, like, the only white guy in the movie you saw like twice, briefly. The guy that was buying up, places and like buying up the coffee shop or whatever. Or,
was he white or was he like Polish or some shit, or was he Jewish?
Maybe.
Was he a Jewish?
I saw him just as like a white dude, but like, Lin-Manuel, like, apologize and like say like, oh, I got to do better. I'm like, dude, like, you know how much you're doing for the Latino community as it is to like get a movie like that greenlit. And like, yeah, okay, representation is important. I'm fully on board with that. But like, I'm also realistic in a sense where it's baby steps. Like, it's always been baby steps.
100%.
Like, you're never like, there will never be another show like Friends that has an all-white cast, and we know that. Like if there's and people were kind of dragging Friends a little bit through the mud when they had the reunion. Like, oh, why is it such a all-white cast? I'm like, dude, come on, like that's just what it was. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. And if you look at the fan base for Friends, white, black, Spanish, Asian, everybody loved that show.
Not me. I never cared for Friends.
But still, like, it was bringing in.
But I was a Seinfeld fan, so I cared. Yeah. I like the other white group.
Exactly. But still, like, between those two shows, you got like millions of people, 20 to 30 million people each week watching it, of all different races and colors. And nobody really had an issue with it. Like, like we still love those shows. And we are all aware that if you made that show now, it would be a diverse cast. And that's because that's the way the world is.
The world is, yeah.
So I hate it when shows like, Friends get dragged through and EPs feel the need to apologize for the casting back then. It's like, dude, like, I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, I don't get offended by that.
Nothing is as bad. What the fuck is his name? Nothing is as bad as The Simpsons. And then what's his name came out and said he's a comedian, I think, or something like that.
Hank Azaria?
No, not the guy who does the voice, but the guy who said I think it's the one from Silicon Valley, and he did the other comedy, the other movie.
God.
You know what I'm talking about?
Nanjiani.
Yeah, he was like, Nanjiani. Oh yeah, that's the Indian guy everybody thinks I am, or something like that. I think it was him that came out and said something like that, wasn't it? Or he came out and said, oh, that's a poo. It might have been him or another comedian. And I'm like, dude, like, just like, aren't you from Canada? like, have you gone to the corner store? It is legit it is that guy.
But everybody, I feel like, was in on the joke before and not taking it serious. Look at Harold and Kumar. Like, like Kumar, like Kal Penn. How many jokes were within that movie that are stereotypical jokes about the Indian community? You know? Like, I mean, yes, the bullies at the end get theirs. They get embarrassed. They get all that stuff. But there are jokes leading up to it that are stereotypical, and it's a funny movie, and he understands that it's a comedy. And they made 3 movies of it.
But they're coming out now, and they're saying like, "Oh, I'm never gonna play a poo again." And there was another character,
and that's fine. That's fine.
Like,
you don't have to do it.
Man.
You don't have to do it from this point on. That's fine. But like, the apologizing, I think, for everything that came before is just a bit much. And this is coming from 2 people of color. Like, I think that we all know to do better now. Like, it serves no purpose to drag the old movies and the old shows through the mud. Like, I think even when all the riots were happening last summer, like, even Kindergarten Cop got dragged through the mud for being pro-cop propaganda. It's a freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger kids movie. give me a break.
I think people want to make something that's not there. They want to create something, especially with entertainment, because art is subjective. Art is art. Your interpretation. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, I'm telling you right now that when Steven Spielberg made E.T., he made it for kids. That's legitimately what E.T. is for. No, but it's about bringing this, how you bring an alien together, and it's showing community and how they... No. I'm telling you right now, E.T. is about kids. E.T. is about kids befriending an alien. That is it. It's not a metaphor. It's not about to be a black kid. It is a metaphor for kids just finding some shit and figuring it out on their own. You know what I mean? And showing that kids are a lot smarter than adults take them to be. That's really what the movie is. And people just want to make shit up because art is subjective. Art is an opinion, which is cool. Everybody's allowed to have one, and I'm all for it. I always argue back because people say, like, my friends will tell me, like, oh, you don't respect people's opinion. I was like, I respect people's opinion. I don't respect stupidity. Like, I just don't. Because I have a lot of stupid opinions. I like Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. I like it. I think it's fun. Rob Schneider's, it's too much.
No Demolition Man. It's no Demolition Man.
It's no Demolition Man. Demolition Man's excellent. But I like it. Do I think it's a fucking Oscar film? No. I don't think it's an Oscar film. But I enjoy it. They got a couple things right from the comic book. But, like, and people drag me through hell for that film. And other things, But at the same time, you can't go nitpicking. Like, the best example is, and I think we've talked about it before, is Mel Gibson. Right? Like, oh, well, I don't like him anymore. Like, cool. Oh, and yeah, and, Braveheart, Mad Max, and Lethal Weapon stuff. I'm like, oh, hold on. Stop. Time out. Like, I get you don't like the guy, and we got to separate the art from the person here, but you can't sit here and tell me that the Mad Max series and the Lethal Weapon series, and I'll give you a little leeway on 4, but I like 4 a lot, that they're horrible films. And what women want is great.
I'm just not watching his new movies. That's all. Like once he was exposed of the person that he was, I didn't really watch anything of his.
Really?
After that.
Oh, I have.
And nothing with him in it. Like I saw Apocalypto and I saw Hacksaw Ridge.
It's good. Hacksaw Ridge is good.
All the old movies, like I'm still gonna watch those. Like I've shown Lethal Weapon to people since his whole blow up. But like Kevin Spacey, we've definitely touched on this before. But like. LA Confidential was on TV like a couple months ago, and I watched it, and it's a great movie, and he's great in it. Yeah. But like, if he did another movie now, I wouldn't watch that movie now.
He's coming back. He's coming back. Yeah, right. He's got that Italian film, right, or that French film.
I did hear that, yeah. But I'm not gonna not watch Seven ever again. Are you kidding me? Or Usual Suspect. I know you don't like Usual Suspects, but
I don't care for it. I don't.
Well, I gotta get going, but I have one important question for you to end the show.
Shoot.
Do you think there is any peace to be had between Vin Diesel and The Rock?
Fuck no. Not at all. I think The Rock knows his worth, and I think The Rock knows he's a smart businessman. So The Rock and I share the same birthday, or he shares the birthday with me, so we're both very stubborn Tauruses. And I think he tried to be the bigger guy, but after that recent article, like... This guy is riding a huge wave right now. He's on top of the world, and Vin Diesel is barely hanging on to whatever he's got.
All he's got is the fast movies. That's it.
And
every other movie tanks.
And he's like feeding stuff like, oh, we're talking about another Riddick film, and we're talking about another was it Bloodshot? Blood?
Yeah. Who wants another Riddick movie? That last one was so bad.
Yeah, like what are you doing, dude? Like what are you doing? Take your group money and go and live a life and be quiet, because
I think it was a big mistake on Diesel's behalf, because I saw Fast 9, and it was they've been progressively sillier with each movie, and Fate was fun because it still had The Rock in it. Like we lost Paul Walker, but it still had The Rock. And now you don't have The Rock, you don't have Paul Walker, and that was a huge gap. And then you didn't even have the screenwriter that did Tokyo Drift up through Fate.
Chris Morgan, right?
Yeah, you would think these movies, and through Hobbs actually, Hobbs and Shaw, and you would think these movies like like who really needs a screenwriter for these movies? But he knows the tone of these movies, and he balances that line of comedy, silliness, and action perfectly. He knows how to do it, and you just can't bring in a fresh voice like that. And Justin Lin's not a writer. I don't, he might have had the idea to make this series what it is now.
Yeah.
But he's not a writer, and like no offense to Daniel Casey, but like he just didn't get the tone. And everything kind of the jokes fell flat. Even the Tyree stuff that we usually can count on fell flat. And as spoilery as these trailers always are, I think this one was the most spoiler. Like every single bit of action in the movie or cool shot was in the trailer.
Yep.
So it's like nothing I saw. Like I'm watching, I'm like, all right, I'm waiting for something cool that wasn't in the trailer. I saw it all.
They should have. I mean, I think Tyrese or somebody dropped the ball and said that they had a rocket car, but they should have really kept the rocket car out of the trailer. Like,
For sure.
like, oh, we don't know if that's gonna happen. We don't know.
They should have kept the truck flipping into the plane. They should have kept that out. All that stuff. Yeah, like I think losing The Rock was a huge blow, and I don't know if they'll be able to close out these next movie or two as they intend to in a satisfying way without him. Honestly,
No, the thing that it's like you watch The Rock's responses and his Instagram and stuff, and he's trying to be like sort of humble, but he's also being like I don't have time for this shit. If you look at like his response, like, I wish them luck, I wish them the best.
yeah.
But I'm gonna go make Hobbs and Shaw too.
Right.
And make more money than Fast 9 is.
Yeah.
Because we don't
exactly because he's probably going to wait. They'll get the production going, and then theaters. Hopefully, everything will be a little bit more normalized by the time that comes out, and that'll make double probably what F9 made. Especially if Ryan Reynolds and like Kevin Hart become regulars in the series, which I feel like they will.
And if anything, he's only going to drive his value up with Black Adam coming out, and he's still got the Red Notice coming out.
Yeah.
It's just he's doing so much, and it's exciting at the same time because you know what you're going to get with The Rock, but with Vin Diesel, like it's just family.
Yeah.
I went. So I real quick. I went on that Fast and the Furious ride that they have at Universal Studios, Orlando.
The tour thing, right? Where it's just like the
No. They have an actual ride at Orlando. So it's you get on the party bus, and you go on like a big car chase. And your bus gets they throw two anchors from the tow trucks, and they're like trying to pull you to get away from Owen Shaw's character, right?
Is his face and likeness in that ride, Owen Shaw?
Oh yeah, that's him. Like
that guy's so happy then. Like he's gonna be making royalties off of that forever.
So they only brought some characters back. They didn't bring everybody back, like for the show. But The Rock is in it. The Rock is in the ride. That's I thought was the best part. Hobbs is in the ride, part of the ride. But like even the people who run the ride are making fun of it. They're like, like they're like, oh yeah, hey, what's up, family? They're just cracking jokes, and you're like, well, you do this like probably 100 times a day, so at this point you're probably making fun of it. But like it's at The Rock doesn't need it, and I think he knows it.
Yeah, I will say this though, Vin Diesel, as dumb as his comments were, he wasn't completely wrong because I did rewatch Fast 5 before 9, and he's a different. The Rock's performance in that is way different than what it is in Hobbs and Shaw. Like in Hobbs and Shaw, he is just The Rock. Like he is in every movie.
Well, it's because they gave him
backstory.
backstory. They gave him backstory.
Yeah.
What was it, Fate?
But his whole his whole approach to the action scenes without the family stuff. Like when he goes to beat up people or he's with Jason Statham. Like he's not Hobbs anymore. He's just The Rock in another movie, which is fine. He's entertaining. Like he's good at what he does. But his Hobbs in Fast 5 was like the best, because he was dead freaking serious in that movie, and he was like a good threat. Like that movie's just awesome. Fast 5 is a legit action movie.
He looked like a government appointed bounty hunter.
Yeah.
But I texted you. I was like, the best thing they could have done with The Rock was they should have just kept his character secret, just a gym police officer living life, doesn't care about anything else except catching bad guys. And I would have watched that
Right.
movie. I would have paid for an R-rated Hobbs movie. Who doesn't care, just takes pain pills, some steroid shots, and is out there just like catching bad guys. Like that would have been some awesome shit. But no, we're gonna give him a daughter, and then we're gonna give him his mom, who can like for some odd reason beat the shit out of him, and then like
bring the Simone family.
The Simone family into it, you know, and that was a selling point. It's just like, why? I was completely okay not knowing anything about him. I didn't need to know anything about him. But
Well,
whatever.
we'll see what they do. I think Chris Morgan wrote Red Notice.
Oh,
I
really?
think he'll come back for it. So he's good. He's good on work. He'll
Okay.
come back for the next Hobbs. But I think the next Fast movie might suffer from not having The Rock again, and who knows, what they're going to do story wise. But they need to scale it back just a little bit.
So no more holding a helicopter with a chain and holding on to the tow truck. You're not Captain America.
I think we need to keep feeding into the family that we've never heard of before angle, and in the next one they need to bring back Johnny Tran's sister, who Vin Diesel. You remember he briefly mentioned her in part one,
I slept with his sister.
Yeah. So that was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, there might be a Toretto kid, another Toretto kid out there that's like it's gonna be a Bad Boys for Life situation that comes back. He's trying to kill everybody.
I'm such a Bad Boys fan, but I hated that little ending. I hated it. Like, oh no, don't.
The setup for the next one.
Don't break him out of jail to help you solve crime, man. I'm okay
after
with this.
after he killed his captain.
Oh God, yeah. Like justice for Cap. What's his name?
Justice for Joey Pants.
All right. Well, look, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us again. We're not gonna take such a hiatus. Hopefully not. But life sucks, so we'll do our best. Yeah, we'll know.
Get the Delta variant, get the Lambda variant. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, look, everybody, be safe out there. Go watch your movie. Leave if you're on YouTube or anything. Drop a comment if you want us to talk about something specific, or if there's some movies that you love or like, or you didn't agree with us. Good or bad or indifferent, we love to read it. We love to check it out, and we'll address it on the next podcast. So, Alec, thank you.
Next time.
Yep.
Thank you, Gus, man. See you around, man.
Later.